Hey everyone, we're back with another week of Find Your Film. This is for the week ending October 29th, 2021. As always, we have a very packed show. This is a very eventful show because I'm really excited. When me, Eric Holmes, and Bruce Perky, we started this whole podcasting universe. We started first off with Movie Mainline, and then we just transitioned after several months into what we have this iteration right now with the Find Your Film podcast. One of the first impressions I received from co-host Eric Holmes was his unabashed love for Scott Adkins, action star, dramatic actor. If you've seen Avengement, you know he's a dramatic actor. Yeah, Scott Adkins. And then the second thing I learned from Bruce and Eric was the brilliance of Jim Cummings. They kept on hammering about a movie called The Wolf of Snow Hollow or something. And it was just Sleepy Hollow, Snow Hollow, Sleepy Hollow, Snow Hollow. And it's Snow Hollow, by the way. And then also this other movie, Thunder Road. They kept telling me over the last maybe even a year and then 2 years with Thunder Road to go see Jim Cummings' work. I ignored them, vehemently ignored both of these fronts. Eventually, I ended up loving Scott Adkins. But anyways, enough of that. Because this week, Scott Adkins and Jim Cummings has been part of our podcast universe. It's a dream fulfilled. Eric Holmes, I'm going to shut up. Can you tell our listeners what had happened to you this week? What's going on?
Well, I got two separate emails, one right after another, and it was, "Hey, we have a interview opportunity, and Greg said you'd like to interview Jim Cummings." I'm like, "Oh, geez, yes, I would." And I got nervous about that, and then later on in the day, I got another email similar. It's like, "Hey, Greg said you'd like to interview Scott Adkins." I'm start shaking. I'm like, "Oh God, yes, I will." And I did both those interviews and pretty nervous for both of them. Because it's like, Greg, you're the one that usually does these interviews and you put them up on the cinematics, the Patreon page.
Sometimes, yeah.
And dude, you're so good at this. And the only thing I could think of, like, just waiting to do the interviews, I'm going to fuck this up. So
I forgot to tell you, as an experienced interviewer, I've been interviewing people since 1991. It's been 29 years. I forgot to give you this piece of advice when interviewing people. I don't know if I gave you this advice, Mr. Bruce Perky. You know what's the biggest thing about interviewing? The number one piece of advice? Eric, do you know what it is?
Drink lots and lots of beer beforehand.
Good. That's good if you did that. And by the way,
I did not.
You should have. You should have. If you did drink beer, what would your beer of choice be if you decided to imbibe before an interview? What would it have been?
Probably Coors Light or something like that. I usually go quantity over quality.
Okay.
When it comes to beer.
And Bruce, let's say you did imbibe before an interview. What choice of drink would you choose?
I don't drink a lot, but maybe something with vodka.
Oh, something with vodka. Okay, that might be some vodka soda, maybe like beta test, maybe something like that. Very good. You got me on that. Maybe with that. We're gonna get to that in a second. Eric, I'm very bougie, so my choice of drink would be before an interview was Stella Artois. So that I like
boozy.
Stella.
He said he's very boozy.
boozy and bougie. So anyways, how did those interviews go?
And I'm Brucey.
Yeah, and you're Brucey. Oh, by the way, my piece of advice, Eric, always phone it in. That's why I look so professional. I phone in all of my interviews. FYI, I hope publicists are listening to this. Once they listen to this podcast, they're going to say, "Oh, we definitely need, for these interviews, we need to contact not Greg, but Bruce Perky and Eric Holmes for our Find Your Film interviews." So how did they go? You were nervous? Did you overcome your nerves? What was it like meeting some really good cinematic heroes this week?
Well, they were both fun. I don't really know. A lot of it's a blur. I was so nervous going in.
You know what?
But,
Bruce, Eric,
they were all...
Eric sounds like me after I go on a date with a woman. That's why I'm still single at 50. Did you notice a little bit of the shakes? Does Eric Holmes have the shakes to you? Bruce, what do you feel?
I haven't only heard the Adkins one, but he seemed like he was riding it and having a good time. So I didn't catch it.
Very cool.
Well, that's good, because in my head I was just like, "Don't fuck this up, Eric. You're fucking this up. Shut the fuck up, Eric."
Yeah, I know. I didn't think twice. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I'm sure people listening to it will enjoy it. If anything, I thought like, well, he was the right man for this job, because you're throwing out a bunch of action directors and stars and things, and I'm like, okay, well, it's a good thing he asked these questions, because I don't know who those people are, and Adkins, I'm sure, appreciated that. So
yeah,
right. Right. So anyway, the Scott Adkins interview will be part of our Find Your Film podcast feed for next month. I believe Scott Adkins is in a new film called One Shot. Eric Holmes has already seen One Shot. The review is embargoed, so we'll be talking about One Shot next week. I'm going to interview the director as well. So part of our Find Your Film universe, we're also supplying you along with the weekly reviews, we're going to be supplying more of these interviews. Thanks to Bruce Berkey, myself, and of course here, Eric Holmes. Now, Jim Cummings, Eric, sounds like a really friendly guy. Was he friendly? Was it a fun little chat you had with Jim?
Yeah, it was me, Jim Cummings, and PJ Mccabe, who co-wrote, co-starred, and co-directed the beta test, which I believe we're talking about today.
Yes, we're gonna talk about it. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. And Bruce forced us every week. Bruce gives us a show notes a day later, so he's very vigilant. And the beta test is actually at the top of the list. So we're gonna go with Bruce's order. So we are talking about the beta test this week. How was PJ and Jim together with it? Was it a good little convo?
Yeah, it was pretty fun. They noticed the Blue Ruin poster right behind me almost immediately, so that kind of eased nerves a bit and got us going on. And yeah, it was good times. Yeah.
So okay, and that was not a plug for Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes has always had the Blue Ruin poster behind his wall, and of course there is a connection between Jim Cummings and Blue Ruin. Eric and Bruce, I'm sure you know the answer to the question of the connection between Blue Ruin and Jim Cummings. Do you guys know?
Actually, I don't.
Well, the connection is Thunder Road. Macon Blair played a school teacher in Thunder Road. He had a
fucking duh.
Effing dumb, right?
Yeah, God, right. I'm glad he didn't bring that up. I would have looked like a fucking idiot.
And that's why their minds were at ease, because they love the movie, and of course they all love Macon Blair. So we're going to review a bunch of movies this week. There's the beta test. There is we're gonna actually review one of probably my favorite epic adventure in the last maybe couple of years, and we're gonna get to that in a second. We're also going to be reviewing Dune, and we're also going to be talking about this movie called Snakehead and the epic adventure. What is the name of the epic adventure, Bruce, that we're going to be talking about?
Heart of Champions.
Okay, no, the movie that it's called it's called The Spine of Night. Yes, the other movie that Bruce was talking about was, I was gonna actually have my joke where I was gonna say, and last but not least is Dead Poets Society. I mean, it's Heart of Champions. It's not Dead Poets Society. It's Heart of Champions. I'm forgetting Horror Noir. Eric, were you able to see that? Did you get the link? Was there something screwed up with that?
No, I got the link, but between all the movies watching today or this week and the interviews, and then catching up on a little book here for someone that we're going to talk to next week, Rick Fisher. So I did not get a chance to watch the Horror Noir.
Well, understood. But we're going to be Bruce will be talking about Horror Noir. I got to about 4 out of the 6 shorts. Spoiler alert. I'm really loving this anthology. I'm assuming Bruce Berkey feels the same way. We have a lot to cover. Also, the book that you were talking about, Eric, what is that book? And Rick?
This one right here?
Yes.
Chameleons, written by Rick Fisher, this handsome little guy on the back. Little guy. He's not a little guy. He's a big guy, ladies. He's a very big guy. And he wrote a novel called Chameleons.
Yes, Rick Fisher. He's an author. He's a close friend of Eric Holmes. He will be joining us on Find Your Film for a segment. He's going to pick one of his favorite movies. Me, Eric, and Bruce, we're going to probably watch that movie and review it with Rick. And then we're also going to be talking about his book, Chameleons. So that's a lot of stuff to get to. And I think mainly, we're going to have one recommendation from Eric Holmes, and he's going to talk about that. It ties in with the whole beta test universe. And then Bruce will have his wonderful What's in the Box movie. It must have been quite a religious, spiritual experience for you, Bruce, this week regarding your What's in the Box.
It was. I was transported into another dimension.
They say cinema can really move you into different places. Where did this movie place you in the realm of our consciousness? Did it place you in a beautiful meadow where you were basking in the beautiful sunlight in the dew of the morning? Was that it?
It was like that meadow. If you've ever seen Soylent Green, and at the end of Soylent Green, they go to this special theater with a meadow where you go to be euthanized. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's the truth.
That is the truth. Okay, we're going to mention that movie towards the end. We're not going to actually mention it right now. I don't even want to spoil it for you. If you listened to last week's episode, you know what movie Bruce is talking about. It might be the most horrific selection of this entire episode. Before we get on, so anyways, clap to Eric Holmes for a good job this week on the interviews. And why aren't you clapping, Bruce? Bruce is not a team player. He's not clapping. Eric,
you mentioned crap. You're gonna get this guy.
Very good. Anyways, very good. You're gonna be hearing Eric Holmes's interviews on our feed very, very shortly. The beta test this week, and then next week again, Scott Adkins. Speaking of the beta test, let us talk about the beta test, written and directed by Jim Cummings and PJ Mccabe. Jim Cummings, he plays a power agent in Los Angeles, and he's about to get married to this wonderful woman played by the Death of Dick Long actress Virginia Newcomb. And the thing about Jim Cummings is he's making a lot of money. He has a wonderful fiance, and he has a good buddy, played by PJ Mccabe, who's also the co-director and co-writer of this, I believe. Co-writer. It was co-written again.
Both.
Both.
Writing and directing.
Yes. Okay. So, and PJ McCabe plays his worker in this high-powered talent agency. And okay, this talent agency, they're not there to nurture talent. They're there to package deals. They get an actor, or they get a producer, and they get a director, and they work with other producers. They're all about packaging movie deals, TV deals, packaging. The more you package things, the more you sell, and the more you sell, the more money you make. The beta test is very, I don't know. I would like to call it the meta test, because there's so many different layers to this movie. It's about the corruption that is inherent in capitalism, especially in this talent agency. And also the main thrust of this movie is Jim Cummings' character is he gets a purple envelope, and he opens it, and it's a invitation for a sort of a one night stand, or just a random encounter with a stranger who supposedly admires him. The catch is they're supposed to meet in this hotel in Los Angeles with their blindfolds on. They go into the room and they will have sex. And that is the key, sort of Eyes Wide Shut-esque, like Bruce was saying. And what happens is Jim Cummings' character is wondering whether he should do it or not. And if he does, once he does it, this says it in the trailer, Bruce, by the way, he has to face a lot of repercussions from his actions. Okay. So it's a lot of different layers to this movie, a lot of different cinematic influences, but it's a very singular experience. Bruce, let's start with you regarding the beta test. You love Jim Cummings' work, and now he's co-directing and co-writing with PJ McCabe. What are your overall impressions of this movie?
Very positive. I actually kind of love this movie. I ended up watching it twice because I wanted to kind of really catch all the stuff that's going on in it. I would say, so if you've watched other Jim Cummings movies, I think you will at least enjoy this because it does a similar thing in that it's almost more the character interactions than the plot, although the plot is key in this movie. But like the other two movies, it's about his kind of frantic semi-unraveling, you might say, which is kind of seems to be a theme with his characters that he plays. I would say this is his darkest character, probably his least likable character, which might be the biggest problem for some people, is that this guy is a very hard to like guy. I think that what really works here is that it's such an interesting satire about just, internet life and the oh God, how do you describe it? There's so many things. It's so genre. They say the word genre bending. This is truly genre bending, kind of in the same ways that The Wolf of Snow Hollow was. I would just say, if you like Jim Cummings and you like his style, and you want to see a movie that's kind of unlike any movie out right now, and it's comedic and dark, and even, dare I say, apocalyptic, this movie is pretty excellent. I'm kind of tongue-tied in how to describe why it's so great.
Bruce, you might be tongue-tied, but you weren't tongue-tied. You weren't creatively tied when it came to actually a meta or beta Halloween costume. Can you tell our listeners what happened with your costume with the beta test? What happened? Did you get a reaction from the social media verse, which is social media is one of the corruption of social media is also part of, very meta. Tell listeners.
A character in this movie at some point puts on one of those, you can get those filters that you have, like those big plastic filters you use to, like, I don't know, paint or something. It's pink. And he puts it on to, I guess, disguise himself at a point, or to maybe become more threatening. And he has that and a hammer. And that's all I'm going to say. So I just happen to have that exact same filter. So I put it on and had a hammer and posted it out there to the guys. And I said, hey, look, I found my costume for Halloween. And the meta ridiculousness of that, I think really they liked it quite a bit. So
that's very well done. Yeah, that was a very good costume. Eric, what did you think of Bruce's costume? Did it fit the theme of the beta test and most importantly, what did you think of this movie?
The costume was pretty sweet. I got one of those at work, but I didn't bring it home with me. That's just a cool costume because it's like right there, like it's just right there, which is perfect. As for the movie, I think it's really great. The opening scene is fucking dynamite, just like right off the bat. I was just like, oh shit, and then there's a certain thing that happens. I'll just with my hand,
Right.
if you can see that, and yeah, that was good. And then the whole middle of the movie kind of, I don't know, it just writes that line of thriller and comedy, and it's a lot funnier than you think it might be, especially after that opening scene. And it's just, we talk about Joe Dante, how he likes to mix in a bunch of genres, but he does them all really well. Like, he does the horror and the comedy and, family film, like it has all these different genres, and he nails all of them. And I think the beta test does this. Again, Bruce mentioned Wolf of Snow Hollow does the same thing. And I think this is just kind of the next, just them kind of kicking it up a notch a little bit. And the ending, even the ending, it sticks a landing. It gets to a really emotional kind of introspective, kind of point. And yeah, this is fantastic. Can't wait to watch this 18,000 more times.
18,
Yes.
that's a lot. 18,000 times is a lot. Eric, Bruce, what are you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, this is also one of those movies that has great rewatchability, because I think it's fun to watch it again and see the little things there's a lot of little breadcrumbs that are planted in there that you don't quite get the context of, but you get when you see it again. And this is it's not like it in style, but it works in a similar way to what I think Coen Brothers movies work. Whereas you can like Coen Brothers movies, like the whole movie, but a lot of times what you love in Coen Brothers movies are specific little interactions. And there's certain scenes and interactions that you just love to watch again and again and again. This movie is full of those. Just scenes where he's going up and like talking to a guy at a hotel, trying to get information. There are probably 7 or 8 scenes like that in this movie that on their own are just awesome moments of, I just can't describe. They're just great.
Bruce Perky loved this movie so much, he actually did a Google Doc a dissertation, and he sent it to me and Eric, basically analyzing different parts of the beta test. Bruce, that probably took you a little bit of time. You actually, you really love this movie. Then this is a strong recommendation. You spend time.
I really do love this movie, and I think that for the people who it works on are gonna adore it. And I think this is one of those movies that when people watch it and it sits with them a little bit, that they're gonna really, this is gonna get, I think, a lot of love.
Well, Eric described this movie as a movie that he'll watch 18,000 times, and that goes to the rewatchability of it. We described it as fantastic. Bruce said the beta test is a satire. And you know what? I've lived here. I'm now 50 years old. I've lived here for 40 years, specifically in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, with the beta test, it's not just a satire. I look at it as almost a documentary, because right, exactly, Eric. Because the people in this movie, they talk in, especially the Jim Cummings character, they talk in a seemingly hyper real, hypersensitized, what the F are they doing situation. But living in Los Angeles, this is how a lot of people in LA talk. They are a lot of people here in Los Angeles. I can say this. I'm a Los Angelino. They act very entitled. By the way, PJ Mccabe, I'll give him a little bit of credit too, because he's a co-writer, co-director, and he's a co-star in the movie. And he's very funny as the guy who's seemingly a good friend, but maybe he's not, but maybe he's very entitled too, and very passive aggressive. There's a passive aggressiveness to a lot of these people that comes out to the forefront in the beta test. Also, there are some really shockingly, as Eric points out a little bit regarding the opening, there are some shockingly violent moments in this movie, which you might get from the trailer, but there's so many different things to appreciate about this movie. I personally, living in Los Angeles, appreciated how they really got the tenor of how a lot of people communicate here in the City of Angels, which is that people act like you owe them something. And if you don't give them what they think they're owed, they will go off on you. And it's so annoying watching these people go off. And it's very entertaining because I don't know, maybe Jim and PJ, maybe they spent their share of time researching or meeting these people in Los Angeles, because I found it to be very, very realistic, and the idea about how capitalism over humanity sometimes pretty much trumps it in this city. I feel that energy as well from the beta test. So I like Eric and Bruce. I really, really love this movie as well. The beta test, let's see when it's coming. It's in select theaters starting November 5th. Okay. Now here's the thing, and you can also pre-order it on digital. I was reading on Jim Cummings's Twitter feed. You can actually order it on Apple iTunes as well. So it's going to be in theaters November 5th, and I'm in opening in domestic markets, and I believe you can also pre-order it as well. But we'll be talking a little bit more about the beta test next week and replugging it as well. Not re-reviewing it, but replugging it because it's such a wonderful movie. Eric Holmes, yes.
Yeah, I would also point out that if you go on Twitter, the beta test Twitter, they also have a tweet that you go on there and post a movie theater in your area, and they will call that theater and try to get the beta tests there. You know, as much as we're looking forward to it, and as much as the people listening to us, you know, this is kind of in their wheelhouse. This is a smaller movie, so, you know, it might not be playing in your neck of the woods. And if that's the case, hit up that Twitter and post the nearby movie theater, and hopefully it'll be playing near you. And if not, definitely fucking rent or buy this on Amazon or whatever, wherever you have to get it, because this movie's fucking awesome.
Yeah, we will post a link to the website and also where you can actually pre-order it or order it as well on our show notes. Bruce Perky, final question before we get on to the next film. Someone says, if someone asks you, Bruce, hey, you know what? I haven't seen any of Jim Cummings' movies. I don't even know who PJ Mccabe is. So why should I see the beta test? I don't know what's going on. What if someone is not even doesn't know any part of this whole Cummings world or the previous movies? Why is the beta test an entertaining film for the lay viewer?
For the lay viewer, I would say for anyone who really likes really smart, cutting, like satirical comedy with a bite. I think people who like that will enjoy this. And like I said, people who really enjoy the vibe of Coen Brothers, it isn't like the Coen Brothers, but I think it taps into that same kind of fan base. I think that's the kind of person will also like this as well. And I think we're seeing the coming out party, the true coming out party. He's destined for greatness. I'm just going to say this now. It's happening right now.
Okay, very cool. And also shout out to Virginia Newcomb, who has a really good role in this movie as a fiance. I don't want to give too much away, but it is not your stereotypical long-suffering girlfriend, fiance, wife role. It ends up being a lot more than that. So we know how talented she is just from The Death of Dick Long. We've been a fan of that whole crew and especially her from that movie. And it's good to see her not just be, window dressing in the beta test. She's just a big part of the whole story. Very, very important part. Eric, do you have something to say? You had something?
Yeah, there's also regarding Virginia Newcomb. I won't give it away here, but in the interview, we talk about her and one of her possible involvements. It could have been in Wolf of Snow Hollow, but you have to listen to that to know what I'm talking about.
Oh, very good. Oh, that's a nice tease. Eric Holmes. Okay, so again, that is the beta test.
Call me Dr. Tease. That's what I do.
Call me Dr. Tease. Okay, so that is an awesome film. This is a strong recommendation from all three of us. Now, another film. Before we get to our second film, let's just do a quick postmortem on Dune. Eric Holmes, it was your birthday last week. You said you'd celebrate it with a whole Dune day, and then come to find out that on our Cinematics Facebook group feed, there were some people who really loved it. There were some people who really didn't like it, or people who were middling about it. We want to know, Eric Holmes, you have read the novels, you have seen the Lynch version, and Dune is a huge part of your life, creative life, as far as pop culture consumption. What were your overall thoughts of this movie?
I love this movie. So me and my niece and nephew went to watch it in IMAX, and then we actually bumped into a bunch of friends that just happened to be going to the same screening that we did, which was fun. So I got to talk to a bunch of people about the movie afterwards. And my initial thought after watching it, because there's a bunch of as many exposition dumps that are in Dune, it's very subtle, and it doesn't make sense hearing me say that because of all the exposition dumps. But when the book is so dense that, if you read the book and watch it, go, okay, yeah, I kind of get that, because there's a bunch of stuff they touch on, but they don't really dive into as deep as they did in the book. But I kind of knew what they were hinting at and what they were jabbing at. And I get a sense of what's to come in Dune 2 or Tune, I guess. And I'm really excited to see what they do with the second one. I'm really happy with how they set up everything in this one. But I guess had I watched this by myself, I would be kind of gun shy about recommending it, because I don't know. Like, if you read the book, I imagine that you would love it as much as I would, or at least appreciate it as much as I do. But I don't know how people that aren't familiar with the book, what they think of it. And of course, we leave, and my niece and nephew, they loved it. You know, my friends that we met up with there after the show, they're like, dude, that was fucking cool. Like, you know, ornithopters and everything. So I was kind of surprised by their reaction, happy that they loved it as much as they did. But yeah, as a fan, it sets up things nicely for the second one, and it touches base on enough of the things, because it's not a direct adaptation, because again, the book's so dense that you got to let some stuff go, and they did, or some stuff they just kind of barely touch on instead of really diving deep into it, which maybe if it was a TV show they could. But overall, I really love this movie, and I went home and watched it on HBO Max after I got.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Yeah. If you're a fan of the book, you probably already watch it, but if not, I would say check it out. And now the fact that we talked about how the movie ends,
Right?
Not what the ending is, but
Right,
just the fact that it does that Lord of the Rings. Compared it to Lord of the Rings, it does exactly that. The movie just pretty much stops on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're the type of person like I was, where you watch the Fellowship of the Rings and it just stops and you're like, what the fuck is this shit? Then I would wait till the second one comes out, because it's already, you know, they've already greenlit it. It's coming out in 2023. And so maybe you wait till that comes out and then watch Dune and Dune 2 back to back. Because I'm telling you, the second one, it seems like they're going in the same direction as they do in the book. And if they nail that ending like the book did, the second one's just going to blow minds. And I cannot wait. Cool. I cannot wait for that to come out.
Very cool. I'm so glad you loved it, Eric. Bruce, so did you know that they're greenlighting the sequel?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Did you hear about the rumor about the sequel?
No.
Did you hear about the rumor is this one's going to be this one's going to be really good. Did you hear about that one? This one's good. I'm kidding. I like the movie.
About?
Yeah. I like the movie. I like the movie. I was a bit underwhelmed. I did like it. I was expecting to love it. It's one of those movies. I think once I think I might like it upon the second rewatch, on another rewatch. I will say this though, the one shining star, in my opinion, of this movie, along with the production design and the cinematography, is the performance by Rebecca Ferguson. She's so good in this movie. She's fantastic. Bruce, your thoughts on Dune?
It's the best Christopher Nolan movie I've seen in probably 10 years, maybe. No, I think I'm not a huge fan of the Nolan style, and this is very similar to that, but it's good for what it is. But I think people who love that style will love this movie. For me, it actually makes me want to go back and watch the Lynch one and see how it ages. I haven't seen it for 30 years. The story is still great. The story is solid, and the acting, especially like you said, Ferguson, Chalamet, I thought was really good as well. You know, I was kind of wondering, and I think that to me, as the adventure kind of begins, when they really get out there, the ornithopters, and they get out into the desert, and the kind of the last, I don't know, 45 minutes of the movie, I started to get more invested in the story. But I understand that if you're really into the lore, all that other stuff really grabs you too. But to me, it was kind of like so monochromatic and so serious and so heavy and so like, oh my God, this is like the politics of the Star Wars movies almost to me, you know? And I was just like, I don't care. Let's just go do something else. You are really just a big superhero movie. Face it. That's what you are. Just do it.
Bruce, did your sons go see it with you? Did your sons check this out?
No, I went and saw it alone. And I actually looking forward to watching the other half of it too. Yeah, but I'm not excited by it. It doesn't excite me. So
yeah, and here's a caveat to this. I want to say this, okay? Eric Holmes is passionate about the whole Dune universe, and a lot of people are, and even people who are not passionate about the Dune universe ended up really loving this movie. That's a caveat to that. But the double caveat to this is me and Bruce are huge fans of Blade Runner 2049. So it's not like we are naysayers on Denis Villeneuve's work and all that stuff. It's just for us. I think I ended up liking Dune a little bit more than you did, Bruce, but I guess it just did not hit us in a resonant way as much as it did Eric, but I'm glad that Eric loved it. Bruce?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, I don't think you could say, I guess you could say, but I don't think you could say reasonably it's a bad movie. I think it's
not even close. Not even close.
Yeah. And I think that, so it's kind of like, does the tone and the style hit you, or does it not quite hit you? And that's more of a taste thing than a quality thing. So, I mean, I have nothing to say, but I mean, it's an amazing production. I mean, it is.
What's really frustrating though, that they split this up into two movies, is that, have you heard a song that you really like, but the really good part of the song is like that last third of the song where they do they throw in an extra riff or a breakdown or something, and you play the song and the song's good, but it's that last part that really, you know, turns the
Right.
screws on. And then you're like, dude, you got to check out that song and then listen to it. And it's just about to get to that final breakdown. And they turn the song off, go, I don't like it. Oh God.
I know what you're saying. And yeah, you know what? Before we even started recording this, Eric, I was listening to my Spotify playlist. The Dune is like listening to the opening moments of Kenny Loggins going falsetto on "This Is It" before getting to actually enjoy the chorus of Loggins singing "This Is It" with Michael McDonald in the background, right? basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Hey, Bruce.
I mean,
I like yacht rock, bro. Okay, get with the program. # yacht rock. Come on.
I've watched the series Yacht Rock. I know how Hall & Oates are the denizens of that whole world. And
yeah, Kenny Loggins. This Is It, folks. One of the best songs ever made. Unfortunately, not made by Hardline, but still a great song. Nice little callback to that. Now, we're done with Dune. Next up is this movie called Snakehead. It hits theaters on digital and on demand October 29th. And here's a synopsis. This is a very interesting movie. It centers on this immigrant. Okay, she's Chinese. Her name is Sister Tse, Tse. She is illegally transported with a whole bunch of other immigrants to New York through a snakehead. The snakehead the moniker is a human smuggler. So once she is transported to New York via a snakehead, she is forced into initially prostitution. Okay, and a lot of people, they have to, once these immigrants come to New York, they are levied with a huge debt that most of them can't pay. So they either have to work at these restaurants or do other things, become drug runners, all these really, really bad things that they don't want to do, but they have to erase the debt. That's the whole premise of this movie. The thing with Sister Tse is she's played by Shuya Chang, and she's very good in this movie, by the way. She has a reason for coming to New York. She has a daughter, I believe a 10-year-old, I think she's 10-year-old daughter, maybe a little bit older. She has a daughter in New York, and she wants to actually get rid of her debt and then be reunited with her daughter, who's now adopted to white parents. Okay, that is a premise. But during the journey, she gets embroiled within the New York underworld. Remember the moniker Snakehead? She works her way up into the ranks to possibly becoming her own snakehead. Maybe she becomes a smuggler of human. Maybe she becomes a human trafficker as opposed to being trafficked. It's about her supposed rise in the ranks regarding this criminal world. The actual head mobster or the crime boss is actually played by Jade Wu, an Asian woman probably in her mid-60s, and she's very good as well. Ultimately, also in this movie is how do you pronounce his name? Sung Kang from the Fast and the Furious franchise. He also plays one of the crime bosses, just really negligent and eldest son. So very interesting mob thriller. And it's also an immigrant drama. It has a lot of these things in the pot. It worked for me. I'm going to talk about the final act, which I thought was very interesting. Bruce, while I was finishing this movie, I really enjoyed that it's mainly pretty much an Asian cast, Asian lead, 2 Asian leads. And I thought just on representing different voices, I thought it really worked. But there's a third act that I'm going to get to that I thought was very interesting as well. But I was wondering if maybe a part of this hopefully made you like this movie, or did you not like the way it went?
I did like this movie. This is, comparing to other movies, of course, always the thing, right? But I mean, the obvious comparison to this would be something like Goodfellas. It's not that kind of Scorsese energy, but the idea of this kind of semi-outsider finding their way in this universe that's already built, this kind of mob underworld. And what I really appreciate was kind of same things you're appreciating about it too. First of all, Sister Tse is really good in this, and she brings a serious, almost, there's kind of this sadness mixed with kind of steely determination. Like she goes into this world that she shouldn't be part of, and she's constantly showing them that she's tougher than they think she is. And in fact, there's the first moment where Daima, who's the older woman you talked about, sees her in a light beyond what she originally thought she had when she's reacting to her initial attempts to be prostituted. That doesn't last very long because she's a very strong personality. And that is the key to this movie. If you like it, it's because it's low budget. It has some limitations, but it's very focused and it knows what it's trying to do. And it really stays with that main character and lets you be with her pretty much 90% of the time. And I think that's where it will win people over.
And you know what? It's a tropey type of movie, but it doesn't fall to those tropes. It's
True.
a weird, it just overcomes them, and it's written and directed by Evan Jackson Long. I believe it's Leong Long. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name correctly. It's just just a different type of voice. And regarding the third act, there are so many things that happen within the last 20 minutes of the movie. I saw the third act maybe several times because I don't know how they were able to fit all that stuff in within 15 to 20 minutes. Yeah. There's a lot of ish that goes on in this movie, and the way it's edited and done and performed, I thought was pretty much, for an indie film, they pulled it off. And
yeah, I agree.
I was surprised. This movie could have gone off the rails within everything that happened, but listeners, you just have to see this movie because it's interesting what they did with this movie regarding the mob thriller, crime drama, family drama situation. I just thought it was interesting for an indie film. And, give credit to Shuya Chang, and never seen her before ever. She's a really interesting voice. And Jade Wu, I'm assuming, I haven't seen any of her stuff as well. I'm assuming this probably is her meatiest role, and she's so fantastic. So, yes. Yeah.
Well, and like you said, like the tropes. So like Jade Wu as the kind of the de facto mob boss, right? You would imagine how that would be played in kind of the stereotypical, Italian mobster movies that we're seeing most of the time, right? And she doesn't play it like that. Like, her style of menace is so understated, and it's very interesting how she does it. And I wanted to say that final act you're talking about, my guess is that this probably wanted to be a bigger, longer, even more epic movie, but they probably had a lot of limitations. They probably couldn't quite do that. So and considering what they do, okay, last thing, to its credit, this could easily be done as a much more B-style movie, a much more, it could just be kind of cheesy, actiony, like way less serious. And it takes it seriously all the way through. And I think it mostly pulls it off.
You know what's weird, Bruce? I was thinking the same thing. It could have gone that straight action B level, just bloodletting thing. And we wouldn't fault it for being that. We really, but it had its own intentions. It wanted to be a serious drama, right? So
yes, it takes itself seriously, and I credit it for that. But it doesn't do it in a super I want to say it doesn't do it in a super pretentious way. Yeah. Like it does it, but it does it in a way that feels genuine to that person, the voice of the filmmakers. So I think that it's a pretty neat little indie serious crime drama.
This is what we're trying to do with Find Your Film. Is there's so many movies that come out on a given week. Let's face it, Snakehead is going to be at the bottom of the barrel. You're going to have to actually really sift through it because it's not going to be in your, it says it's playing in theaters, but most likely maybe not be in your local theater, wherever you live in the States. You're going to have to actually hunt this one down. Snakehead in theaters, on digital, on demand. Strong recommend. I mean, solid recommend from Bruce. Solid recommend for me. We both loved it. We both really loved it. Very interesting indie crime drama. I'm assuming, Eric, you didn't get to it because of all the Scott Adkins stuff you had to do this week.
Yeah, so. I tried to squeeze it in before recording today. I got about 15 minutes in, and I'm more than likely going to be rewinding this next week.
Cool. Yeah, no, Snakehead is a very interesting movie. Also, here's a surprise. You guys didn't know this. Tomorrow, I'm so glad you liked it, Bruce. I'm going to interview Jade Wu and Shuya Chang tomorrow.
Oh, so cool.
For our listeners, we're getting a lot more interviews for our Find Your Film podcast. All of us are doing this. This is something that actually was introduced not by me, but by Bruce and Eric months ago when they did that movie. What is that, Max Cloud? What is that, Max Cloud? You guys started that whole trend. So this is a big part of our Find Your Film universe, doing these value-added interviews for your podcast feed. Next up is a movie. We're talking about epic adventure. Look, the beta test and watching Jim Cummings' first movie, Thunder Road, over the weekend inspired me to really maybe one day just try to write my own material because it's so singular. Jim Cummings is an inspiration as a storyteller. The Spine of Night, I don't even know how to begin.
There are so many things that man cannot know. The bloom is the last light of the gods.
The sacred bloom traveled, and my dreams traveled with it.
It is unspeakable power. Whatever you dream, you will have.
It's too late to change what has happened. But not too late to change what will be. Why bring me here?
We all have masters to serve.
She will know sorrow.
Our people have suffered long enough.
I am enlightened.
I will not let you do this!
This night is not yet done.
Eric, do you know how to describe the Spine of Night? It's just a fable. It's an adventure. It's a bunch of stories within a story. It's a apocalyptic tale. It's a rotoscope nightmarish wonder. What is it? What is the Spine of Night?
When watching it, my first thought was if Ralph Bakshi did a rotoscope sequel to Beastmaster, it'd probably be something along the lines of this. And if that sounds awesome to you, then this kind of delivers that, I think. This is it has that Ralph Bakshi, it's done in rotoscope. So pretty much anytime you rotoscope something, I don't know about you guys, but Ralph Bakshi is the first thing that comes to my mind. It's weird because like before I watched it, you guys had both seen it before me. And I believe William Lindis was the one that was hyping this up, which got Bruce's eyes to kind of twitch a little bit. So like I came in like, dude, this thing will blow your mind. And I'm watching it. And I think that might have oversold it a little bit. Not that this isn't great, but I was
Sacrilege, Eric. What are you saying?
Let me finish.
I always say that on dates and they kick me out. Okay, sorry.
But I guess I was expecting, because this is like a really tight movie. The story is relatively simple, although it spans, this is weird to say. The story itself is simple, even though the conceit of it is not. If that probably doesn't make any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Look, here's the thing.
It spans over eons, but it's got a really A to B kind of storyline because you're following the main character. But then it, does the flashbacks. Actually, Dunkirk. I think Dunkirk would actually be a good example of that, where, it has this, weirdly, it's flashbacks to like a couple minutes ago or a couple hours ago, but it still does that front to back kind of storyline. I think the only, and this isn't even a problem, this is just, I would also like this to happen, would be, I would love to see what a live action version of this would look like. But I'm also glad that like the rotoscope kind of look to it helps it a lot too. So yeah, this is a really good movie. Yeah, if you like Beastmaster, like rotoscopes, check it out.
Yeah, written and directed by, I'm mispronouncing the name, Philip Gelatt, Gelatt, and Morgan Galen King. The voice actors include Richard E. Grant from With Nail and I, Lucy Lawless, Patton Oswalt, Betty Gabriel, and Joe Manganiello. Anyways, here's a plot synopsis, and we're going to get to Bruce's take on it. Quote, in the Spine of Night, an ultra-violent fantasy epic, ancient dark magic falls into sinister hands and unleashes ages of suffering onto mankind. A group of heroes from different eras and cultures must band together in order to defeat it at all costs. That's basically the plotline. Really, it's just a whole bunch of bloodletting and violence. There is a sinister force. Listeners, this is one thing that you could value-added lesson. When you see a blue flower bloom in front of you, avoid it. Because you might have a lot of power. Don't eat the blue flower. When it blooms, leave. Don't go on a mountaintop and stay there forever and tell stories to people who try to kill you. Nope. I found this to be a wonderful film. Bruce, take it off. Your thoughts on The Spine of Night. Was William Lindis correct in his assessment at how brilliant this movie is?
For my taste, he was absolutely correct. I really enjoyed it. So like we talked about with Dune, if you go into this might not be your style. It is a very individual and unique way of presenting the animation. for modern audiences, especially if you're not used to Ralph Bakshi and rotoscoping, they're going to be like, what is this animation? This isn't what I'm used to. This isn't my, anime. This is not my digitally enhanced, animation. It's a different kind of stuff. But if people can get into the style, I think it's a ton of fun. The best way I describe it, and I think that I can't describe it any better than Eric did. I think he got a really good take on it. What I would add to that is, to me, if you grew up or you've ever read Heavy Metal magazine, and if you've seen the heavy metal movies, but would never quite got exactly the tone that the magazines would have sometimes, this is your movie. This is the ethos or the style. Oh, I might be losing me here. The ethos or style.
No,
of
you're
Heavy Metal
fine.
Magazine.
Yeah.
Heavy Metal magazine brought to life in animation, and it is done. I mean, it has gratuitous nudity everywhere, gratuitous violence everywhere, but it's not gratuitous because it's part of this creative and amazing kind of sword and sorcery world. And if you like that kind of stuff, I can't imagine you won't like this movie. And I would contend it's equally as epic as Dune. In its own right, it's equally epic. When there's a moment where you have slaves carrying a stone pyramid thing, slaves carrying a stone pyramid on their backs with this evil guy on top of it. And this guy by then, is really evil. And just stuff like that. You're like, okay, that's pretty damn cool.
You have winged assassins, and it's a Zeppelin-esque type of escapade, and it blows your mind. These are just scenes that are just popping out of my head. There's a semi or pretty much nude woman. Well, I don't want to say what her occupation is. She's climbing up the mountain, and she's meeting this really interesting character who may slay her or may tell her just amazing stories of life and humanity. There's parts of this movie that I found to be resonant, quite a little bit moving. There's a sequence where it deals with lovers. I'm not going to talk about what their fates are or how they fit into the movie. It's a throwaway 2 to 3 minute interlude with these lovers, and it was wonderful. It just a throwaway moment, and it just sticks. I prefer this to Dune. I like this better than Dune, personally. I like Dune. I loved The Spine of Night, and I'm glad that you liked it as well, Bruce. And to like for you like it. Solid recommend from you, Eric, as well, for The Spine of Night.
I was also just thinking about it now. I really want to see like a live action version of something like this, but then to do that, it would have to be like $150-200 million epic. And no studio is going to spend $150 million to make this movie because with the amount of nudity and graphic violence in it. So like you could only do it as an as animation. But I'm just kind of basking in the thought of, but what if they throw $150 million at something like this? Like how cool would that be?
Oh, 100%.
For us, for those of us who are fans of like hand-drawn animation, stop motion animation, Frazetta, PG Cycle Gorman, whatever it is. Like there's moments in here, like say for example, where they're giving the history and there's stuff about the gods, and it's just drawn and it's so cool and so interesting looking. And you could make it a real slick, like live action version, which is basically CGI, right? Because it have to be CGI, and it would just lose something. There's something about that slight roughness of that hand-drawn.
I see what you're saying, but at the same time, I can also see myself sitting in an IMAX theater with a Zeppelin pouring lava into a guy in a fucking blood.
Yeah,
cool
no,
thing.
I see you.
Fair.
Like that whole ending. Like just imagine sitting there watching that, and I was going, "Oh my god, this is fucking awesome."
Yeah,
but then like even if you buy the IMAX tickets, like it wouldn't be rated R. It would be rated hard R.
Oh yeah.
Like they would actually like, no, we're doing a new R. It's called hard R. Don't we already have X or NC-17? Hard NC-17.
Also, I don't know if you guys agree with this. This also, Bruce, you're talking about a rewatch of the beta test. I believe this has a lot of rewatchability because the
Oh,
first
yeah.
time you're actually watching The Spine of Night, there are some seemingly incidental characters that you think might just be wallpaper, but they end up being a big part of the narrative. So each of these little players, Bruce was talking about the slave sword carrying that tablet. Okay, so those are definitely incidental characters, but there are seemingly other minuscule people who actually end up having big roles in the narrative, and that can only be fully appreciated upon a second watch of The Spine of Night. Do you guys agree with it? So much is going on in this movie.
Yes. And I can tell you
Yeah.
the exact absolute way this should be watched. This should be watched. This should be watched. This should be on Friday and Saturday night at midnight at your local weird art house theater.
Yes.
You go there with a bunch of friends and you may be in various states of alteredness. And this movie would be
take some flowers
glorious.
before you watch it.
This movie would be glorious. Glorious.
And even if you don't do that, I mean, it's like one of these things about Dune. Do you watch it on your HBO Max or do you watch it on the IMAX? Obviously, the best way to watch it on IMAX. A good movie is a good movie is a good movie.
Yeah.
But like you said, the optimal viewing, I guess, follow Bruce's idea regarding The Spine of Night. And that is The Spine of Night hits theaters on demand and digital October 29th. Eric Holmes. Yes, sir.
One other thing. Is there like between this and Crypto Zoo, do you think this is
What a double feature. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is this a result of the COVID thing? Because you can do animation, like, you know, you could write an animation story and Bruce could come up with the storyboards and I could animate it. Like, you don't need to be on set for these things to happen. Even the stuff that it's all rotoscope, so you could just have someone act it out in your living room and then rotoscope the background to be whatever you want. Do you think that perhaps this might be the start of a resurgence in these type of kind of low budget indie animated movies?
That's a good question. I hope so. I hope
I can see the blurb now on the poster. Go watch it. Thanks, COVID-19.
I think so. I think if more people find The Spine of Night and a younger generation really, really loves this style of animation, you know, obviously 20 years ago, Richard Linklater did it with Waking Life, right? But I hope there's more of this. It would be so cool because I'm looking at some of the images from this movie. It's gorgeous to look at. Yeah, I would love to have a wallpaper of some of these images from The Spine of Night just adorn my walls. So high marks from all of us. We all really love The Spine of Night. Now, speaking of another movie we love is Bro Harder. BROW Harder. What is this, Bruce? You put bro hard on the Google Doc notes. What is that? Can you tell our listeners what is Bro Harder? Is it bro as in what's up, bro, or is it brow harder, which is my thick eyebrows?
No,
what is it, Bruce?
It's like bro, but bros who row are called bros. See?
Yeah. You know, this movie is called Heart of Champions. I guess I was thinking, guys, better moniker, would it be Heart of Champions or should it be called Row, Row, Row Your Boat? Or another moniker would be, if it was directed by someone like David Lynch, Life is But a Dream. I don't know. What do you think? Or do you think Heart of Champions is a perfect title for this movie? Eric, let's start with you on Heart of Champions. What do you think? Good title for a movie?
Well, Heart of Champions, I mean, it makes sense given the story. This is probably, my guess is that a lot of our listeners, this is not going to be a movie they gravitate towards. This is like kind of like Miracle. You know, the team, they're a rowing team and they're not very good. And then Michael Shannon's like, all right, boys, I'm going to whip you into shape and get you, you need to learn to work together and not apart. And then you'll be able to fly. And that's what I'm talking about. And, however it does. This is a story you've seen 100,000 more times, probably Disney and probably starring Kurt Russell or, not Kurt Russell, like in Death Proof, but Kurt Russell in like Miracle or Dreamer or something. It's one of those type of movies. If you need a feel-good movie that, kind of manipulates your heartstrings, this will do that. But I don't know that this will, given the audience that we talk to, I don't see this being something that a lot of our listeners will gravitate towards. That being said, it made me feel good. If you can throw yourself into this sort of thing, it does what it does, but it's not going to really, it's going to row you.
Row, yeah.
Go ahead.
Row, yeah. Oh yeah, Bruce, you're doing the rowing. directed directed by Michael Mailer, son of Norman Mailer, late Norman Mailer, by the way. For quite a spell in my 20s and 30s, I would read everything that Norman Mailer had ever written. Was a huge Norman Mailer fan. I should read more. I don't read more now. I just watch movies. But directed by Michael Mailer, Heart of Champions, like Eric said, it's about a rowing team. They don't get along, and it's just about how they're trying to, like Eric was saying, they're trying to get themselves whipped into shape. The main character in this, one of the main characters, is Alex, played by Alexander Ludwig, and you might know him from Vikings. He's the guy who's probably an Olympic hopeful, and basically the rowing team they're sort of although they are a team, it's supposedly just to spotlight the prowess of Alex so he can make the Olympic squad. There's also a guy named Chris, played by Charles Melton from Riverdale. He's the guy who's a transfer student. He's troubled. He has a past. He doesn't really believe in the wonders of rowing. He just looks at it as a job, as a scholarship, as a way for him to survive in school. There's all these little subplots. There's also, if you were a fan of JAG, David James Elliott here, he plays the father of the aforementioned Alex, the Olympic hopeful. So there's a subplot about how the dad just wants his son to really be the Olympian, and he doesn't care about the rest of the crew. So yes, Eric.
That just real quick, that what you just said, that needs to go on the VHS. That needs to go on the VHS cover. Heart of Champions. Do you like JAG?
Do you like JAG? Yeah, JAG actor David James Elliott. I mean, I remember we're of the age. We all remember when JAG was on our various television sets during the 90s, I believe. So I know Bruce was a huge fan of JAG. Weren't you you were a JAG guy, Bruce? Were you a JAG guy? Yeah.
I couldn't jag enough. It was so much jagging in my house.
There was a lot of jagging regarding Bruce Perkins' house. No. So ultimately, like Eric says, I feel like this is a fine enough sports drama. 2 hours, man. 120 minutes, though. This movie could have shaved off about 15 minutes of its runtime. The subplots,
at least
the subplots. There's a whole thing about a girl, and she's fine in this, and her name's Ash I think. Yeah, Ash Santo. She's good in this, but she plays a girl who might be a potential Rhodes Scholar, and she gets involved in a relationship with the Charles Melton character. I didn't care about that, but they did fine. All of the actors are good, but I'll be honest. And the way it was done by Michael Mailer was proficient enough. There is one plot situation that I'm not going to get into that really pissed me off, because I mentioned Dead Poet Society, and it's one of those things where you go, they just threw that. They just put the wrench and they just threw it right into the story. And I just said, okay, no, you pretty much almost lost me with that plot twist. But overall, I would give this movie a light recommendation, mainly because of the acting of Michael Shannon. Watching him yell at the students for, honestly, if Michael Shannon just yelled at these students for 120 minutes, I would have loved that movie. Unfortunately, that's only about 15 minutes to 20 minutes of this movie. So yes, Eric.
I want to see a movie where Michael Shannon's yelling at me for watching the movie. What are you doing sitting there watching this movie? Get up and do something. Or maybe you don't. Hell, I don't care. Just sit there and watch me.
Very good Michael Shannon impression. Eric Holmes, very good. So yeah, it's a light recommend. Well, is it a light recommend for you, Eric? No, not really recommend.
It is, but like you'll know what this movie is, and you just gotta be in the mood for it. And like you said, this is a good enough version of this kind of movie. I just don't think a lot of people that listen to our show are gonna be into this sort of thing. I will say though that twist you were talking about, I didn't see that coming, and so that kind of was a little bit of value added for me, because like the rest of the movie, I'm like, yep, I know. Like that's what this movie is. It's safe. You know exactly what's going to happen. You know exactly how it's. You can almost from the first 5 minutes of the movie, you can hit guess every beat. But that was one that I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. So good on them for that. But right. Yeah. Recommend if you're into this sort of thing, or if you know someone that's into this sort of thing. Otherwise, probably not.
Yeah, again, the running time really got to me a little bit, but ultimately I do lightly recommend this if you're a Michael Shannon fan. If you want a safe sports drama, it could have been a better film though. Bruce, let's go to you.
No. We go no. You guys, no. There's no reason to watch this movie.
Real what? You don't like Michael Shannon? He's good in this.
Okay. Question. You can watch him in a lot better things. You can spend your time more wisely with Michael Shannon. Many different ways. I mean, my biggest question in this movie is why this team? Why? Like all those movies you talked about before. Yeah. All those movies you talked about before. The basic, the foundation of this kind of movie being as tropey as it's going to be is you have to have a reason to follow this particular team or this particular crew. Like there has to have been a tragedy, or they have to have been the worst team ever since the beginning of time, or there has to have never been for the last 100 years a ski jumper from England, or there has to be, you can go down the list. There's something that invests you in this team. No, all this team is a bunch. It's like a 99% white, rich kids that are only okay, and they need someone to teach them to be a little bit better than okay so they can beat Harvard. That's their goal. He even stands there. You have the whole Louis Gossett Jr., like a drill sergeant. What is the reason you're here? And they have to all go down the line. What is the reason you're here? And they're, nope, that's wrong. You're wrong. Give them up with a better reason. We want to beat Harvard. That's right. That's your reason. You want to beat Harvard? That's the goal of this movie? No, fuck this movie. This movie is ridiculously stupid. Do I want to see them? Do they need to go out? Oh, it's the first snow. Tradition to get naked and run around. Oh, yay. Oh, we all throw our little things off the bridge because it's a tradition.
Oh, that's what that was? All right.
Yeah. I don't know.
What did you think of the twist, Bruce?
The twist. That's like
he loved it.
It's like the twist. The twist went from vanilla ice cream to vanilla bean ice cream. Now it's really spicy. It's like
I'm a vanilla fan. I'm a vanilla bean fan.
Let's be off-white now, and we'll be really edgy in this movie. No, this movie is fucking terrible.
Actually, yeah, they did kind of do that, didn't they?
Exactly.
Didn't even think.
I don't know if Bruce Perky's quote "This is effing terrible" is going to make the Heart of Champions quote book. So I think Bruce did not like this one bit, and yeah, not even seeing Michael Shannon do his drill sergeant bit did not even impress you at all. You were just saying, "Get me out of here."
Well, I mean, he's the best thing in here. He's not given anything to do though, really, right? I mean,
yeah.
Even the stuff he's telling him to do makes no sense. Okay, break the glass. Now hang up those, shirts from Harvard. Now, when you do something, you can pick your shirt off. But what? What is
Isn't there a key? Isn't there a key to open the glass and then could it save the school money?
It doesn't even make
sense. It doesn't even make sense. Like, how am I going to inspire them? Hey, can I be the head guy? Sure. I'll inspire them. Well, how are you going to do it? Well, I saw this kung fu movie where the guy had to fight someone blindfolded. Let's try that. Okay, that makes total sense. Now you're better. Oh, I spoiled it. I'm sorry, guys. Spoiled it.
Okay, what do you say?
Bruce, first of all, have you ever been one with the water? When you're in the water and you put the blindfold on and you just feel like you're traveling in a whole different world. You're just one with nature. And I got to remind you one thing about Bruce. I hope you learned this about Find Your Film. No podcaster is an island. Did you know that?
Oh, I'll give you something else better. So I was watching this movie, and when it started, I put 2 pieces of tape on it. I put a blue piece of tape, and then below it, I put a brown piece of tape. And if it got above the brown piece of tape, it was a piece of shit. And it got way above that brown piece of tape.
Okay. Bruce is getting there's not too much love regarding. So recommend Heart of Champions for me. And then Eric has I
think someone's great aunt would really love this movie.
Okay. That's his thing. And then Bruce gives, I believe, Heart of Champions, a light recommend as well. Maybe not. Maybe not. This is a strong not recommend from Bruce Perky. Gotta go. Don't see Heart of Champions. That's what Bruce says. Again, the movie comes out in select theaters October 29th, 2021. Last but not least, is this movie called Horror Noire, Noire. Unfortunately, it's 6 anthology stories. Bruce is going to pretty much lead the charge on this one. It's out on Shudder, not on the 29th, but on the 28th. And it is sort of a companion piece to the aforementioned documentary Horror Noire, which came out, I think, about a couple of years ago, which Bruce really enjoyed as well. Bruce, what did you think of this anthology series? Did it live up to the documentary that you really loved?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to compare because when documentaries about the history of, Black representation in cinema and throughout various ages and stuff. So that's, historical and interesting in that aspect, and also just how it kind of reflects society and so on. And this is now, first of all, I'm not sure if they're presenting this as a single movie anthology.
Single movie, 2 hours and 32 minutes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they're going to do that, if they were going to have them each as episodes. Either way, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's 6 approximately half-hour, parts of this anthology. And instead, it looks like what they're doing here is they're taking, just modern Black voices doing their version of different horror stories. And some of them are about the issues. A lot of them are, but some of them are just a straight ahead horror story. So kind of a whole variety of things there. And overall, I think they're either good and interesting to a few of them are pretty great. So you said you watched 4 of the 6?
I watched 4 of the 6.
Mm-hmm.
I am I'm really loving horror noir. I'm absolutely into it. One of the mentions you mentioned, one of just a really escapist horror fare. That's the beginning of the film. It's called The Lake, where a woman purchases a really beautiful home by the lake, and I'm wondering, she's a teacher. How does she lay down the money for that kind of awesome mansion-like house right in the lake? And she gets this warning from her landscaper. Not elderly landscaper. He's probably almost the same age, a little bit older than me and Bruce. He tells her, whatever you do, don't go in the lake. And what does she do? She doesn't listen to her elders, and she decides to go in the lake. And well, obviously bad things happen. When she goes back to school the next day, she befriends one of the high school students, and she ends up hiring him to be her new landscaper. So that's the premise of The Lake. That is a very escapist horror fare that I thought was really good. But there's other stories. There is out of the 4 shorts I saw, there is one. I don't know what the name of this one is. The one where it's set in the past, where it's Sean Patrick Thomas.
Bride Before You, with the mysterious sounds going on.
Yes. Is it set? What is it? Is it set turn of the century? Maybe turn of the century.
I think it's about turn of the century. Yeah.
Turn of the century. I think New York, right? I think maybe they're in Harlem or something. It's Black couple. She's trying to have a kid, and unfortunately she can't have a kid. And her husband wants a son to inherit the family business or just to live that legacy on. And she makes a certain deal to have this child. And then what happens is what happens in this short. You see the ramifications, the repercussions of actually bringing a little bit of sorcery and witchcraft into the level of birth. This woman who is who really wants to be a mother, she also has her own culture and history. She brings it to New York as well via a wheel spinner. I thought this short, I don't know about you, Bruce, I thought this short was brilliant, because we've been talking in this episode about tropes, specifically in Snakehead. With this short, you think it's going to go one way, and it goes completely a different way. And it becomes
a twist you're not expecting, for sure.
It has a twist you're not expecting. And I found it to be a little bit even moving. And it just shifted your attention in so many different ways. I thought it was a brilliant short. All the other shorts that I saw, there's another short where it's about this guy who's he's what is it called, a muralist or an artist. He paints murals in his local neighborhood, and all he wants in this world that we live in of the gig economy, he just wants to be paid top dollar, or at least a decent dollar, for his murals, as opposed to just working for the lowest dollar for the benefit of his culture and his community. And it's a look at free market capitalism versus really, getting the back of your own people, or actually supporting your own. And I thought that was a wonderful, entertaining narrative as well. Bruce, what stood out for you? Did all of these shorts I'm talking about really stand out?
Yeah, I liked I almost said what it was. The Bride Before You. I like that one a lot. I like the one you just talked about, which is called Brand of Evil. And the thing is this guy is talking to him, wanting him to make logos for his company. And it has a very interesting kind of little take, I guess, kind of making a deal with the corporate devil in a sense, but you kind of have to see how that plays out. I like the one actually right after The Bride Before You too, called Fugue State, where it's a couple I really like how that one played out, where he's kind of a guy who writes stories and stuff about these kind of culty religious groups, and that plays out really interesting. But the best story of all, I think, is the last story, which none of you have seen.
Oh no,
and
it's
called Sundown. And I'll
Oh,
describe the premise of. First of all, it has a guy, and I forget his name. He's the dude. He's in everything. He's a character actor, and he played in Fargo as one of the two. The not. Oh, what's his name? You guys.
Peter Stormare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter Stormare is in this. So I'll just give you the basic setup. It's a group of political canvassers, and they're walking through this small country town, and it's really kind of desolate. And it's getting towards the end of their canvassing, and they're not having much luck. And the one couple, and there's a bunch of them, there's some white and black people, but the main couple is a black couple. And they're like finally getting done with it. And before they get ready to leave town, they go into the little post office, and it's a sundown only town, if you know what those are.
Yeah.
In the South.
Yeah.
And the sundown only town, it's like, no blacks in town after sundown. And the couple sees that, and the woman's like, oh, hell no, we're out of here. Let's get out of here. And of course, they get out to their cars, their tires are flat, and the sun is going down. And Peter Stormare kind of comes walking out from the fog, and he's playing this fiddle, all really strange and spooky. And he's like, welcome, we're going to have our dinner and everything. Come on down. And it's so fun. It's so good. And I'm not even to say what the twist is. You probably can kind of guess somewhat what the twist is, but the way it plays out, it's so fun. So fun.
Wow. It's even better than Bride Before You. Sorry, Eric.
I'm really curious what a black couple in a sundown town is fun.
It is weirdly fun, and it's mostly because the interaction of the two main characters. They are so it really plays. Okay, it plays on the. It's kind of the anti-trope, right? That I forget who was Eddie Murphy, whoever it was, who said like you never have these haunted house movies like Amityville Horror with a black couple, because they go in there, the house says get out, and they're like, okay, we're out.
I got you.
Or even in the new Candyman, there's a nope scene in that one that was really funny, and this kind of plays on that and extends that idea, and it's good.
Very, very cool. So that is horror noir. Strong. Is it a strong recommend for you, Bruce?
I would say it's a solid recommend. I would say, because it's a little uneven, and I think that the one thing that it doesn't have for some horror fans, unlike VHS 94, this is not a super bloody. It's a little more like Creep Show level, kind of more classic kind of horror style. So just know that going in. So the people who are kind of more gore hounds and stuff won't get as much out of this, but they're solid, fun, kind of almost Twilight Zone-esque, Creep Show-esque, classic kind of horror story style.
Exactly. No, this is so far. I've only seen 4 out of 6. I'm so excited to see the final one. I'm currently in the first few minutes of short number 5. It's called Daddy. But also want to mention Leslie Ann Brandt. She is the woman in the lake. She has a very good performance in that. She's very, very good. Bruce mentioned Peter Stormare in Sundown. Also, Lenora Cricklow. She is in Bride Before You. She is fantastic in that short. You know what? I'm telling you, I'm so crazy. I can't wait for you to see this, Eric, tell us which shorts you love. But I honestly, Bride Before You, that could have been a feature film just because of all of those elements. And also
the sound design is pretty great in that too.
It's so good. And I love the voiceover, because the voiceover, it's from the maid in the house, and it centers on her life. It's just so many different things that I really loved about this. Also, if you are a fan of The Craft from 1996, Rachel True is in that aforementioned story that Bruce was talking about the couple and the cult. That's Rachel True and Malcolm Barrett. They are the married couple who are finding themselves in a bit of a conundrum in that religious cult short. This is a value-added short. I'm glad you liked it. I liked it, and we can't wait to hear what Eric Holmes has to say about horror noir. So that is it. Also, Thursday, October 28th. Before we go, Eric, we have a recommendation and we have a box. What's your Cummings recommendation?
My recommendation, before I did the interview with Jim Cummings and PJ Mccabe, I didn't know a whole lot about PJ Mccabe other than his short part in Wolf of Snow Hollow, and of course Beta Test. So I wanted to watch something else with him in it, and I came across 13 Cameras, which, by the way, now I'm thinking of it, I believe currently the Beta Test is 6.9 out of 10 on IMDb. So congratulations to them for having a perfect score on IMDb.
Very good.
But I went and checked out 13 Cameras, written and directed by Victor Sarkov, who I believe this is the only thing he's done. There's 14 Cameras. It says he's got a writer credit on that. I don't know if that's a screenplay credit or characters by or whatever. But PJ McCabe's in it. Jim Cummings is in this for a couple scenes. Brienne Montcrief, basically a guy and a girl, they live in this house and their relationships is kind of on the rocks. Basically, PJ McCabe's character is cheating on his wife and she doesn't know about it, and she's pregnant. And he's basically kind of a turd. And their landlord, played by Neville Archambault, they told me how to pronounce it and I forgot already. Archambault. He's the landlord, and he has a in the house that they're renting out. They have a this stays locked. This is basically where I keep all the the heat, water heater, storage area, tools in case I got to come over and fix something. And so they don't think twice about it. Of course, that's not just a room that they keep for storage. It's a room where, and the movie's called 13 Cameras, so you can kind of figure out where this is going. So he just goes in there and just kind of watches them, and it's pretty creepy. It's mostly a relationship drama, but imagine a relationship drama when you know that some creeper, peeping Tom, possibly murderer, is living inside the house. And that's kind of what this story is. It's pretty good, for this kind of movie. And you get to watch PJ McCabe and Jim Cummings pop in for a bit. So that's even, and that Neville Archambault, the guy that plays the landlord, dude, that guy's really, I don't know if you can pull up a picture of him, but that guy is just creepy looking, and he pulls off sinister quite well. And not gonna say the end, but there's a little sting at like the very, very end that's pretty fucking awesome. So yeah, this would get a higher recommend if you're into thrillers, suspenseful horror movies. I think Michael Haneke's Cache, kind of how that is, but I think this one's a little more fun because Cache gets it's the premise starts off good, but then it just kind of turns into nothing sort of towards the end. This one's a lot more satisfying, I think.
Okay, so that's 13 Cameras. Eric, you saw this on Shudder?
I can't remember where. I think I saw this on Amazon, actually.
This is available currently streaming on AMC Plus, Roku, Hoopla, DirecTV, Shudder, FilmRise, and IMDb TV. A whole bunch of them. And also you can rent and buy it. Again, that's 13 Cameras starring Jim Cummings and PJ McCabe. That is pretty cool. They did 2015, so they've been working for a while together, and it's cool. In this version, they're not directing it; they're both acting in it.
And there's a sequel called 14 Cameras. I know that because I got 15 minutes into it before I realized, wait. And then I saw the things at 14 Cameras on. I'm an idiot, and so I went back and watched. But it was good enough. I think I'm going to check out the rest of 14 Cameras.
Okay, cool. The rest of 14 Cameras. I had no idea about this movie. That's another movie that you can watch. It's streaming everywhere, so check that out. Bruce, before we get to you, let's go to Peter Beta. What does Peter Beta do every week along with host Middle Class Film Class with his awesome buddies? What does he do, Eric?
Yo, Pete, drop that beat.
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
Bruce,
roll that beat.
Bruce, what is the awesome movie that you have for us as we close out the show? Is it better than The Spine of Night or Dune? Or
so much better?
Yes.
I would say it's
good.
better. Bobblehead. First of all, this is Bobbleheads, the movie, directed by Kirk Wise, made to be watched by me, by my son Andrew. It's better than Heart of Champions.
Okay. All right. Fair.
So there's something for you.
Okay.
No, this is a pretty terrible movie. I mean, so here's the thing, right? You watch these kids movies that are like, Toy Story and all that stuff, and there's at least there's something that can kind of pull you in. And this is a terrible knockoff of those, where the basic concept is you've got these three bobbleheads in this house, and the family leaves, and the bobbleheads are hanging out in the house alone, and then the long lost brother and his girlfriend come in to try to steal them because there's a collectible bobblehead, and then they kind of just try to escape and survive the whole time. The animation is very terrible. It looks like it was probably made in the late 90s. and it's 2020 when this is made. And the weirdest thing about it is, okay, here's the problem. There's a lot of problems.
Oh, I'm
It's
loving
not-
the voice actors. Cher, Jennifer Coolidge. Not
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's if you're a little kid, it's a little kid, it's probably entertaining enough. But there's something really strange about this, and that is they're bobbleheads. So their heads are constantly bobbling and wobbling around, even when they're just doing nothing. And it becomes kind of sickening. Like you kind of start to get queasy watching it because they're always bobbling. So I would say if you're going to watch anything, just do a search. I'm sure on YouTube you can find it. The closing credits of Bobbleheads. It's one of the cringiest things you'll ever see. And it is the Cher bobblehead singing with the other bobbleheads and trying to get them to do a dance routine. It's very sad. It's really bad.
Wow.
Does Dennis Miller show up in it, babe?
But it's shorter than Heart of
Very-
Champions, and it's better than Heart of Champions.
So, first of all, is your son's grounded, right? For this?
Oh no. I get to put a movie in the box, and if it comes out, then he has to watch that movie.
All right.
So
So
we'll have
the-
to
so was
crowdfund
he-
what we want to do there.
So was he trolling you, or did he actually like this one?
Oh no, he didn't like it. He watched it and he thought, this is so terrible, I'm gonna make you watch it, Dad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He did that with zombies too. If you ever see those zombies movies, oh my god.
By the way, its rating on IMDb is 2.7 out of 10. Came out last
Good.
year. Bobbleheads, the movie. It's like you said, directed by Kirk Wise. Do you know what other movies Kirk Wise has directed?
No.
In 1991, Kirk Wise co-directed Beauty and the Beast. Following
The
5 years
remake?
later, the Beauty and the Beast, the Disney animated classic. So he directed that, and then in '96 he directed The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the animated version, and then in 2001 he directed Atlantis, The Lost Empire. So he actually has a great resume as an animated filmmaker. Is that weird?
Something must have happened to him.
Something must have happened to him. Who knows?
Dementia?
Okay. So Bobbleheads, the movie. Where did you see it, Bruce? Did you rent this? Did you see it on
It's
Amazon?
on Netflix.
Netflix. Okay.
God,
Netflix.
thank you. Thank you. I did not. Oh, I'm gonna value add to what Erica just brought up. So since we can't bring much value with bobbleheads, Neville Archambault, that guy, he must be part of their stable because he also co-starred with Jim Cummings. Jim Cummings had a small part in this movie called Block Island Sound, which is on Netflix.
Yeah,
Mm,
I haven't seen
I've never
that, but
seen
yeah,
that,
That was
yeah.
on the list.
That's a pretty interesting movie too. So
And
there,
he shows up in Wolf of Snow Hollow real quick. It's when they're going through the, asking people, interviewing people, and I can't remember what is. He has like one line for like 5 seconds, but yeah, he's pretty good.
Yes, I always forget the what's in the box pick. You got to pick for next week, Bruce.
So what's in the box, Bruce?
Along with what's in the box? What's in the big bin box?
Come on,
box
what's in
is
the
getting
box?
lean. I'm gonna have to add to it soon because it's getting lean.
I got
And Eric-
about 4 movies for you coming right up.
Eric, make sure you ask Rick Fisher, author of Chameleons, what his movie pick is for next week, so maybe we
Yes.
can check it out too. What
Whoa,
you
this
got?
is pretty
What's in the
cool.
box?
I have not seen this movie forever. I definitely have
Mm.
seen it, but I haven't seen it for a long time. So I'm curious to rewatch this movie, and that is Do the Right Thing.
Do the right thing. Who is it from?
Carlos Lopez Estrada.
Yes, Carlos Lopez Estrada, who I interviewed. Yeah, very, very cool. Great filmmaker
Yeah.
from Blind Spotting. Yes, and Raya and The Last Dragon, and I forgot. What did I interview him for? Summertime. That movie Summertime, which is an interesting movie as well. Okay.
Do the right thing. I haven't seen it forever. It'd be really interesting to see. This is one of those movies that, you get those cultural touchstone movies, at their time. And then to watch them, 30 years later? Like, when did they make that movie? 95?
I think 89 or 90, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
over 30 years later, it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out. I have a feeling it plays out really well, unfortunately.
Yeah. Eric, have you seen Do the Right Thing?
Yeah, it's been a while, so I think I might jump on this because it's worth a rewatch. I think.
All right, so we're done for this week's episode. Next week, we're going to be, I think we're in Scott Adkins mode, and I think I have to find a couple more films for us to do. And also, Bruce Perky mentioned to me this morning about our dedication to spotlighting physical media. First off, if you've listened to this episode towards the end, I am currently doing a giveaway for our podcast as well as cinematics and my site Deepest Dream, Stillwater, Blu-ray, and DVD. It's available. All you got to do is check out my post on Deepest Dream, enter, and that's it. And one of the qualifications to actually get on board for this giveaway is to rate and review our Find Your Film podcast. But regarding physical media, along with having more giveaways, we will be spotlighting more DVD, Blu-ray releases starting next week. I think we're going to figure out maybe DVDs and Blu-rays to review down the road, or maybe we can pick from our own library collection as well. I think physical media is something that we need to cover more of down the road, not just with giveaways, but I think it's going to be very, very important. What kind of Blu-rays do you want us to cover, Eric? What do you think down the road? Anything about genres? What kind of genres are you into?
Well, certainly Spartacus, if for nothing else, that Dalton Trumbo, his thoughts on the script. That alone is pretty well worth it, I think.
Yeah. How about you, Bruce? What kind of physical media do you want to cover down the road? Any Blu-rays or DVDs that come out in your head? Maybe I'm thinking you're a Shot Factory guy. I know that.
Oh, for sure. Any like that, any of that stuff where they kind of bring back, like we talked about, Alone in the Dark recently, any kind of a weird like revival or remastering of some old kind of lost B movie. I love that kind of stuff. Or something like, like Possession, which just got reintroduced to the world here in the last month. And I think will probably be making an appearance again on 4K restoration and Blu-ray and all that stuff. So it'll be very interesting to see the world kind of catch up to that movie again.
I also kind of want to, because we were talking about this with the physical media, like not just the movie itself, but like the special features and the stuff that goes along with it. I wonder if anyone listening has any recommendations as far as like maybe the movie's great, maybe it sucks, but like the certain special feature is really interesting, or it's got a really good commentary on it. So if anyone has any ideas, maybe we check out, search those down. I think that'd be a fun idea.
Right. And the thing, very good. And then one of the things with premium services, with these streaming services, they offer a lot of these channels. Of course, Criterion Channel, a couple of other channels, they offer various special features to go along with their movie. But the problem is what we're getting a glut of streaming services which just show the movie. Unless you have something like the Criterion Channel or maybe Mubi, Fandor, you're not going to get a lot of good special features from these things. And like, remember what Paul Thomas Anderson said? He didn't go to, his idea of film school was his film school was listening to the director John Sturges' commentary from Bad Day at Black Rock. That's what taught him on how to become a filmmaker. So let's find, I think to your point, Eric, it'll be good for us to actually find special features that are not just featurettes or glorified extended scenes, but what are some of the DVDs or Blu-rays that can be value added for people who want to break into film, or people who want to learn or to improve their screenwriting craft, or cinephiles who want some really interesting special features that are not found on your various streaming services. So maybe that's a job that maybe we can pick up down the road with some of our coverage.
And some of them have like the movie will come out and then you check the special feature and they'll have like a short of some short that filmmaker did that can't be found anywhere other than on that DVD.
Yes, Eric. And because me, you, and Bruce are such weird individuals, we're going to go down that rabbit hole. I know, Bruce, you're not a big fan of the Blazing World, but we're going to go into our own various Blazing World. We're going to go into our wonderland of special features, and hopefully that'll be very, very interesting. We mentioned Bruce Perky. We mentioned the Blazing World. Bruce, let's just talk about it. We're going to end with you. Do you have any insights before we leave?
Oh, I'll just leave on the same thing you're just talking about as far as Blu-rays and physical media and stuff. I will add that one of the things I really like, they used to do a lot, I don't know if they do it as much anymore, is when they put weird little Easter eggs into the physical media releases too. So for example, there's a special feature on Rocky Horror Picture Show where you can watch it in the Wizard of Oz version where it's black and white for part of the movie. Or there might be a weird little thing where they have these little touches where you can add extra like rabbit holes you can go down. So I would say that's another thing where it actually becomes its own thing. By having the physical media, you actually have something above and beyond the movie itself.
That's what we have to find. Okay, we have a new mission along with 20 films per week we have to watch for Find Your Film. It's all good and fun. And we will see you. Hopefully, you know what? Also, tell us what you think of the interviews that you're going to listen to with Scott Adkins and Jim Cummings, coordinated and done by Eric Holmes. Please email us and tell us how great of an interviewer Eric Holmes is. If you really hate his interviewing style, well, there's nothing you can do about it because you've had to deal with my interviewing style, and he's a much better interviewer than me. So you know what? You're going to get a bigger dose of Eric Holmes and Bruce Perky down the road. Who are we going to interview next, Bruce? Come on. You used to be on a big interviewing run. You've just been so busy, you being busy with life and all. Are you gonna take up the mantle and start interviewing people down the road too? Huh?
I will. I'm thinking about it. I've got something in the works.
Yeah. Kirk Wise, the director, or maybe the director of the Heart of Champions. Can I set that up for you right now? Yeah.
Is it?
Up at Blazing
Was it
World.
Kirk Wise? I think-
Wait. Carlson
No,
Young.
no.
Carlson Young is actually on the horn. You want to talk to her a little bit?
No, it's gonna be Michael Mailer was the Heart of Champions. And what I'm gonna say is this. I'm gonna start the interview like this. Michael, were you mailing her it in?
Okay. With that, folks, we will see you next week on Find Your Film.